Good morning and welcome. Before we begin our service, let us take a moment to share in our stone ritual. I place a stone for our joys. One for our sorrows. And one for our intentions for the coming week.
The UUCT care team follows up with congregants who are experiencing joys or sorrows. The care team also addresses needs of congregants. The care team can be contacted by email at careteam@uutampa.org. And now to our service.
Welcome, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here to be your worship associate. My name is Bill Blymiller. I've been with the church for what seems to me an ungodly amount of time, but I think it's only been about 18 years. Seen a lot of things, had a lot of fun. I want to welcome you, if you're a member, and I'm pretty sure you probably are. You're going to get a lot of useful information and some real help today. And if you're not, if you just jumped in because you wanted to see us, you come to the right spot. Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa, very proud of being open and accepting, even of folks like me. I'd like to light the chalice this time with a reading from Judith Quarles. At this hour, in small towns and in big cities, in single rooms and ornate sanctuaries, many of our sibling Unitarian Universalist congregants are also lighting a flaming chalice. As we light our chalice today, let's remember that we are a part of that great community of faith. And may this dancing flame inspire us all to fill our lives with the Unitarian ideals, indeed the human ideals of love, justice, and truth.
Please join us in singing number 1018, Come and Go With Me.
Come and go with me to that land. Hi, my name is Erin Powers, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tampa. And today I've got a story for you. There is a parable called Bundle of Sticks. I have told it to you before, and you have probably heard it in other places too. The lesson is that one stick alone can be easily broken. Yet many banded together are so much stronger and unbreakable even. The lesson in this parable is timeless. We are always stronger together. We need each other to survive. We are an inherently collective people. Our seventh principle reminds us how we are all connected to each other in all the ways. And when we try to separate ourselves out from each other, we weaken our interconnected web of existence. When we focus too much on the individual, other parts of our web of existence are stressed and strained. And right now, we are seeing what can happen when we focus too much on just a few sticks and not the whole bundle. We didn't always notice that some sticks were being cast out. We didn't notice that the ties were becoming ragged and loose. And there was something else we didn't notice when the other sticks were being removed. You see, many of them broke. Many were lost, but the pile of sticks that was removed from the bundle was growing, and it began to take shape. And then the cast out sticks realized that there was enough of them to make their own bundle. And as more were removed from the first bundle, the second bundle grew larger and stronger and larger. And as it grew, the first bundle didn't seem so big anymore. It began to become weaker. The ties that held it together were loose and broken in some places. Some of the sticks from the first bundle decided to join the second one on their own. Some were cast out. And so it became that the bundle of sticks that were cast out became larger and stronger than the first one. And as the ties no longer held the first bundle together, more and more sticks joined the new bundle. And they found out that when they held each other, they didn't need to be tied together. They could support each other and work together to create a strong bundle. And we can do the same. Our seventh principle, the interconnected web of existence, calls us to care for and support each other. Together, we can create a strong community, a strong and welcoming community that always has room for those who wish to be a part of our bundle. It takes a lot of work. We have to hold on to each other. But together, we can create a stronger and more vital community. And with that, our story ends.
Today, some words for meditation. I'm going to read Apart but Together by Cynthia Landrum. Spirit of life and love, we gather in different ways this morning. From computer screens, from telephones, from car radios, we gather reaching out across the wires, waving from a safe distance. To come together in a religious community, from living room to front porch to car seat, we gather as we are able. ready to be of service to each other, to the world, ready to build a community of hope and love as we face this bright morning. We are apart, but we are together, offering our love, our commitment, our hope, our prayers, His service to one another and this world in a new way, but an old way, that we come together and worship today.
Hello, everyone. Now we're going to sing number 352, Find a Stillness. Find a stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
You're in for an interesting talk now. The speaker today is our president, Jay Butler, and I'm going to introduce him briefly. Jay comes from a military family, and he spent a lot of his childhood traveling from base to base, as you might imagine, and has seen a lot of the country and seen a lot of the world. But he landed, his father decided to retire in the area, and he landed. He graduated from high school here in Tampa. He's a Tampa boy. Went to Louisiana to try to find himself, but he came back. And he's married to a wonderful woman named Felice, and he's been a member here for 4 or 5 years now. And I have to tell you, the admiration for what he does and how he does it is growing every day. He's a good man. He does good things, and I'm sure he will have a good talk for you now.
Hello, I'm Jay. More specifically, since we have several J's in our church, I'm JB. Don't turn off the video. You did click on the right link. This is my sermon. Did the mask catch you off guard a little? My apologies. But it was necessary, as I want to remove anything that makes me unique as we discuss what we have in common. I hope over the next few minutes, you let who I am fade into the background and let the similarity between my stories of youth and yours merge into one common tale about the need to belong and the strength that comes from unity. They might have happened to you growing up too. So let's peel back the surface and relate to one another on a deeper frequency. And speaking of frequencies, this is going to be a lot about music. Music has always been at the root of my social life. I could talk about bonds formed over sports or religion, but the subcultures that have defined me as a child, in my youth as a young adult, and reflected me as a middle-aged man have always been grounded in music. For me, my relationships with people outside of my immediate family started with music. And let me stress, I'm not a musician. I'm acquainted with various types of drums, and I can play a little, but I'm not a musician. However, I do appreciate music. I even took music appreciation my freshman year in college to better understand how it reflects on society. And I appreciate the connections it has helped me make throughout life. So as I was saying, it started with music. in Germany, living in a small military base with one American radio station. And that's American, not British, not English. And that's important because it gave me my first real taste of being an American before I even lived in America and realized a lot about the society. The beauty of this was that whoever chose the playlist chose to play music across the entire spectrum of genres. I later discovered that I listened to what we now call classic rock. I listened to funk, hard rock, R&B, easy listening. I grew up for 3 years hearing just music because I was too young to know the genres. Some of the music was loud and full of guitar riffs. Some music revolved around haunting melodies of the piano. Other songs had deep pulsing bass lines that just made me want to get up and move. But it was all still music because all songs contained the same basic elements. This also reflected how I saw people growing up. I was only 5, and like most children that age, I realized that not everyone looked alike, but that people were still people. They had the same basic elements. I would later learn we all have the same basic elements and desires inside, wanting to belong, wanting to live unmolested, and just wanting to be happy. The children I grew up with on that base, well, we all listened and danced to the same playlist. There is a picture of me somewhere, I know, after a flag football game where we won our first playoff game, wearing cowboy boots, jeans, my flag football jersey, and trying to dance to Queen's "We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions" at that party. It helped that I also had a family who furthered this appreciation for the diverse music. Through my older brothers, I heard The Who, the Gap Band, Kool and the Gang, and AC/DC. My father, who is country at heart, listened to Hank Williams and Charlie Pride, and my mother listened to everything from Tom Jones to Mahalia Jackson. In short, I grew up without any particular bias as to what was my music. Songs are not off limit because of the appearance of the performers. It was American music. My world was that melting pot that we used to talk about. Fast forward to Southern California in the 1980s, Anaheim, Orange County. I went from one diverse radio station that formed common ground for American kids in Germany to several single genre-based stations that seemed to keep American kids apart in our own country. I found that people made assumptions about the type of music I listened to based on my appearance. I thought, how could this be? It was an alien concept. Why would the music I like be dependent on how I look on the outside? I didn't accept it. It was the 4th grade, but it was dawning on me that life in the United States wasn't going to be like life in Germany. It was now American music. It was still American music, but it had hyphens and coded language to designate who should be listening to it. The world seemed like less of a melting pot and more like a mosaic to me. Yes, we're together, but also separate at the same time, perhaps. I became more of a reader during my grade school years. Music in the United States didn't provide common ground for me. It seemed we divided each other by the types of music we listened to, by our appearance. I listened to less and less of it. I became a loner, and I sought to escape through literature and the solace of taking long walks. I didn't want to be part of a society that so willingly segregated itself. Fortunately, as we moved on to my family's journey to Florida, music became important again to me as a teenager. I think we all have that period of transition when we go from a kid to a young adult, and it calls for something that helps us feel there are people out there who can relate what we're going through. With me, it was anger and frustration. Frustration at everything from my oldest brother leaving for the academy to my middle brother's ceaseless bullying. And everything just changed within me. Excuse me. I was moody too. I didn't want to hear music about good times and love and fun and parties. I was browsing the record store at the Base Exchange, and I saw the image of Iron Maiden's mascot, Eddie. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like a mummy. who has a permanent snarl on his face. And he was looking at me from the cover of an album, the Union Jack in one hand and brandishing a saber in the other on a battlefield. It looked like how I felt inside. I bought the album without having listened to a single song beforehand. It didn't matter. I listened to that album and others like it that entire summer before starting school. That August, when I walked into high school, I walked in wearing a frown, boots, a black Iron Maiden t-shirt, and in that homeroom class, I found my 3 best friends in Florida. It didn't happen readily at first. We looked at one another with suspicion and curiosity, born from the shirts and denim jackets we were wearing. Names like Armored Saint, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, and Slayer. The 4 of us didn't know one another. Over the weeks, as we silently advertised our musical preferences, we acknowledged one another. Curious glances led to tentative haze and curt nods in one another's direction when we passed. Remember, we're still teenage boys, so we still had to try to maintain our cool aloofness. We lived in different parts of the county. I would later observe that 2 of them started to talk to each other on a regular basis during homeroom, Randy and Dave. Eventually, McDaniel, the other guy of our quartet, perhaps feeling ignored by his fellow metalheads, approached me and asked me which bands I liked. We began to sit next to one another and talk music in homeroom class. I can remember distinctly by October, the other 2 members of our quartet had begun to drift from their corner of the class closer to ours until we were all sitting together in that one corner of the class every morning, talking first about music and then our aspirations and basically every topic under the sun. We looked for each other in the hallways to talk, exchanged albums and cassettes. In short, they were my 3 best friends for 3 years. We ended up in the same AP classes and bemoaned that Randy didn't have the same lunch period. We were different, but through music we found our common ground. And let me be clear, it wasn't so much about everyone enjoying the sound of the music or references from literature from Metallica as the thing that should not be. It became about 4 guys who were trying to get to adulthood and finding out that friendship made that journey less perilous and more enjoyable. The music was a gateway to what we really had in common as teenage boys. As we started to become a little more comfortable in our skins by senior year, McDaniel was really turning into quite the musician. He played the electric guitar and the piano. We delved into many discussions about Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Jimi Hendrix, the Eagles, and other artists who at first we were too cool to admit that we actually listened to. It was great to find out that underneath the armor of scorn and contempt, that we weren't that far removed from being the little kids loving whatever music we wanted to without fear of society's judgment. We went our separate ways after graduation, and I found myself alone again, this time in Louisiana. I found myself a freshman again. I kept to myself because I'm an introvert, and that's what some introverts do. It's what I did. I had grown out of my metal phase and was listening to music that wasn't typically played on the radio. Again, it's a phase a lot of us might have gone through in college. Discovering what else is out there at the critical ear. I was listening to new wave, post-punk, alternative music, call it whatever you will. I wasn't angry anymore. The life events that projected me into a subculture of righteous anger had not happened yet in my life. I was a fan of bands like London After Midnight. I had been introduced to the genre in the summer before I left for college by my girlfriend, and I took a love for her music with me while I went out of state and she went to Miami. There was a sentimental attachment there at first that kept those playlists and mixtapes in my possession. And later, it became just a comforting reminder of a dear friend, but it became a part of me. Later, after joining the track team, I even introduced this genre of music to a new audience via my boombox at practices. Most of the time, my teammates told me they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear the crazy music, as they put it. So I invited everyone to play their own favorite music, but I always made sure that we had a nice mix of music going in without any one genre taking over. My friends Ray and Anita were long jumpers, and they were really the only ones who got into my eclectic mixes enough to accompany me to clubs. We found a scene more diverse than we expected, and after we became regulars, we began to interact more with other students on the campus who were part of that same post-punk music scene. I encountered members of the coven that way. Anita became involved in their religious practices and actually became a witch. I didn't, because at the time I had my own religious path to follow, but I associated with them heavily. The coven even showed up a few times for track meets to support us. We would have listening parties at each other's dorms or homes, and slowly but surely, we peeled back the layers to find the shared joy of various types of music. One night, someone's boyfriend invited us to see his Oi band play at a local venue. It was a new genre to me, and I then went there with my friend JT. The events of that night would serve to set me on a path to a new music subculture that shaped me into the adult I am today, and ultimately to the doors of a UU church. However, that is a story spanning 20 years, and perhaps best left for another day. But to summarize, I learned that music can be a call to action, that music can wake up something inside of us to help us change the world for the greater good. And what I hope today is that the anecdotes I shared kindled a little spark in our collective memories of the music of our lives. I believe my memories are not unique to me. That's why I want you to take them, just picture them in your head and lay them over your own memories. See how familiar they are, regardless of whether it was music, painting, cars, dancing, sports, boys, girls. Something bridged the gap between you and other people. Somewhere along the way, we went from the simple community of our childhoods to the complex and sometimes isolating world of adults. And perhaps like me, you have found yourself striving for years to find a path to return to that beloved community of acceptance. I'm here to tell you we do not need to fear stepping outside of the artificial roles society has given us to define ourselves by age, gender, religion, and race. Be who you are, and I'm willing to wager that we find enough of that desired common ground to form the foundation for this beloved community that we all seek. And with that, I'd just like to tell everyone to stay safe and to be well. And thank you for your time.
To support the UUCT with your generous financial gifts, please go to the UUCT website and click on the Click Here link to donate. It will take you to our donation page, and you can securely make your donation to the church. Thank you.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul promise built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, let our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
It's time to put the chalice out, not the light inside ourselves, just the symbolic light. Words today from Hosea Ballou, and again, it's hard for me to say this man's wonderful name without a chuckle. Horse riding evangelist in the Universalist faith. He said, if we agree in love, there is no disagreement that can do us any injury. But if we do not, no other agreement can do us any good. Let us endeavor to keep the unity of the Spirit and the bonds of peace. You know, this turned out to be more fun than I thought it was going to be. Not that I thought it was going to be risky, but talking to all of you folks now, it's pretty strange. But then, you know, almost everything is pretty strange. And in this world, you just sort of have to get used to it. And after a while, if you're lucky, it's a lot of fun. And being with you is a lot of fun. Be safe.